Alright, so today I'm going to show you guys how I made this thing. So I've actually never had a video subject be requested so much as when I posted a video of my old one of those on Reddit and everybody wanted to know how I made it. So we're here in my garage and I've got some boards prepared to show you guys how I make that thing. You saw my other video on how to make a bubbling rock water feature. We're going to follow that same format. The only difference being, instead of a stack of rocks being the feature, we're going to use this custom-made concrete statue. We're going to pour the concrete with our pipe running through one side inside the concrete where you don't see it. That way, all we have to do once the concrete dries is just set this in place and hook up our pump to it. So before we even get started, there's a couple of things we need to consider. We need to consider the shape, which for this video we're going to do a square. We need to consider the height and the thickness of the structure. So the height matters because the taller it is, the larger pump we need. A 4-foot tall water feature will need a much larger pump than a 2-foot tall water feature because the pump has to be able to push the water up that extra 2 feet. We'll discuss pumps later. Finally, you need to discuss the thickness. A thinner one might look a little bit cooler, but it's a little more fragile, but it's also easier to lift. So the bigger you make it, the more sturdy it'll be, but also the more heavy it will be, and also will require more concrete. So my water feature that is done out back right now is 3 feet tall, 6 inches thick, and it's a square, because the squares I figured were the easiest to set up and balance and get level. When I made that one, I did not anticipate making an entire video around it, so I didn't really film a whole lot of the process of me making it. So we're gonna do that now. I've got some boards stripped down to the thickness I want, and we're gonna make a 2-foot tall square water feature just like the one I have out back, so you guys can see the process of how I put it together. And we're gonna do a quick build montage of that right now. So it's that simple. Mine looks a little sloppy because I kind of rushed it. If I was to want to reuse it, I would make it neater with maybe some hinges on the end so I can just open it up and get my concrete out and put it back together. But for this one, I don't care if I have to dispose of it when I'm done with it. A disposable mold that looks sloppy is fine as long as it does the job. So you're gonna pour your concrete into the mold halfway up, set your pipe in, and then pour the rest of the mold, smooth it out on top, and let it dry. It's that simple. Pro tip, if I can say that, my dad recommends spraying diesel on the mold so that it doesn't bond to the concrete and then your mold should pull off easier. I've also heard cooking spray. So I used, what do you call it, Pam? I used buttered flavored cooking spray on my last one. I just sprayed it on the boards right before I put the concrete in, and that oil gets between the boards and the concrete and keeps them from sticking together. So when you go to take your mold off, it should just flake off. So we're gonna pour the concrete in this one later because I don't actually have any concrete here, but I did film the installation of the one I have out back. So we're gonna jump to another build montage and I'm gonna show you guys how I put that one in the ground. So, after I got it set with the plants in and I got it flowing the way I wanted it to, I went ahead and filled in with rocks around it. And then what was left of the liner got buried with dirt, and we've transplanted some of our plants around the edge to kind of blend it all in. And I shaped the rock so that it's not a perfect circle, because they look funky if it's a perfect circle of rock. So I've sort of shaped it to make it look a little more natural. This board is to dampen the sound, because when I first put it in, the water was really slapping on that flat surface. So if you listen, it also eliminates a lot of the splash out. If I was to make one of these again, I might do a concrete mold, the shape of that board with an arc, or maybe find a way to make my frame with an arc on the bottom there so that when the water hits down, it splashes at an angle and is quieter. I might experiment with different ways to dampen the noise and the splash, with maybe something else inside to sort of slow the water down or make it trickle more. But I really like how it looks with nothing in the middle. These came in a day early. So I have a submersible fountain light to shine on it when the sun goes down. And I have a outdoor plug with a surge protection and timer. And it says it has remote control because it is a little noisy and I don't want to get complaints from my neighbors about it. So I'm gonna set it on a timer that turns it off at like 9:30 p.m. so that it's not running through the night and irritating my neighbors. So we're going to put the light in and get it on a timer. Somebody on Reddit asked about pumps. I will put a link in the description to the pump I used in this specific water feature. All you really need to know with these fountain pumps is that the higher the fountain is, the more pressure you need from the pump. So when it says 800 gallons per hour, which is what this one is, that is 800 gallons per hour coming out of the pump level with the pump itself. So the higher you go, the less gallons per hour you're gonna get. It's not a strong enough pump to push water up 20 feet. This water feature is only 3 feet tall, so it's only pushing water up about 3.5 feet because the pump sits roughly 6 inches below the bottom of the fountain. I will put a link in the description for everything I use here. And before I wrap up the video, I want to do a cost analysis because a lot of these DIY videos I watch, they tell you how to do it and what you need, but then I get to the end and I have to do all my own research for how much it costs. But I wanted to do a breakdown and add it all up for you guys so that if you wanted to do it yourself, you could know what you were in for. So, if you were to build one of these 2 feet tall and you bought everything name brand from like a hardware store, you would likely spend between $200 and $300, mostly because the pumps are somewhere between $80 and $100 a lot of times, and the liners are pretty expensive. And then if you have to buy all the other miscellaneous things, it kind of adds up. If you were to shop elsewhere, like say Amazon, you can get a pump and a liner for like 35 bucks a piece. And then if you already have the boards and you already have some concrete and some river rock, then you can save a lot of money there, in which case you can build this thing for like less than 100 bucks, which is what I did. Other cost comes when you try to get the timer and the lights and the plants, and then more money starts to add up. But I think my timer was 30 bucks and the light was like 20, so that was only another 50 bucks. So if you like this video, leave me a like below. Leave any comments you want. Give me some criticism or some suggestions or ask me a question. I'll be here. We will upload again next Tuesday. We'll see you guys.